that recording?
Go ahead and get started again. Let's go ahead and get started. And during the break, the gentleman, Gavin from New Dawn, had spoke up and asked me if I've studied some of the research around the chemicals that are being used to make the super high grade THC marijuana. And the answer is no, but he had some serious knowledge. So Gavin, can you just speak to the crowd real quick about your take on this?
The thing I was talking about was...
Speak up, speak up.
Come up.
All right.
The things I was talking about with the synthetic chemicals used to grow it now are, you have to use gloves to put them on, they bleach your hands, it's some pretty dangerous stuff, in a raw form. As well as the pesticides now used to control indoor grows. There's things such as spider mites that can take out a whole crop and you lose all your money. So you use these fogger pesticides, which is you got to leave your house, you got to pretty much wrap the whole place down, and they put it off in the room and it settles on the plants to kill all the bugs, which in turn stays on there. You dry it, and whether it's in a pipe bomb, vaporizer, however you do it, edible. You're ingesting it one way or another after that, and that's something that we do a lot with. There's a lot of marijuana use, and it's a natural no problems, and that's one thing we've been really educating because they wouldn't sit there and spray pesticides and smoke the money. But in a sense, they're doing that. I have no idea what the issue is around whether it is or not. It's something to.
So it's not all natural? But God made it, dude.
Nerve.
All right. So we've been talking about drugs, right? And clients being addicted to drugs. This here is the progression of chemical use. It's not the progression of drug use, it's the progression of chemical use. And when young people, or anybody, has a substance use disorder, they have to be the one to self-assess and self-diagnose. It's not about us saying, son or client, you have a substance use disorder. And then them saying, thank you very much. I didn't know what was creating all these consequences with school and sports and relationships and money, but now I'm clear and I'll get help, right? That's not how it works. They have to come up with their own conclusion that it's a problem. So this is one tool that I use, and then we're going to get into the real tools later today. But I want to open your mind around that they're not hooked on intoxication. They're not. This is the progression of chemical use. We could probably just call it the progression of addictions. The progression of chemical use. If your client's smoking marijuana, and that's their drug, and they smoke it daily, 5 times a day, and they say they only drink a couple times a month, and they've only used Vicodin twice, and then God wipes marijuana off the face of the earth today, are they going to be sober? No. Probation officers, parents start drug testing. They quit using marijuana. What happens? They switch to another substance. There shows you that they were not hooked on marijuana. That's not the real issue. They're hooked on intoxication. The name of the drug's an illusion. It's insignificant. We get too caught up with the name of the drug. Let me ask you which drug my client's using. Since they've started using, their grades have fallen, their families express concern, their friendships have changed to more and more people that are using. If they're an adult, maybe their family has expressed concern, their wife. If they're a young person, the school teachers, maybe they have a reputation on campus. They've experienced consequences of their use, continue to use despite the consequences. Which chemical are they using? What are they hooked on? Intoxication. Because I just listed the symptoms of addiction, and they apply to all of the drugs. Yes, there are differences. You know, more withdrawal, biological withdrawal with heroin. You know, but the physical stuff, we like to get caught up, I think, on the little differences. But 95% of it is the same. Neurobiologically, certainly, there's a difference. About a 5% difference, and 95% of it is all the same. So they're not hooked on weed. They're hooked on intoxication. That's the issue we're dealing with. Another education to give session 1, because we want to address it right up front that now we don't want you just getting off weed and then switching it to alcohol. That's actually pretty common that happens. I was working with an adult client the other day, talking to him about that, and he's like, oh yeah, you're right. I can see how that would happen for me. Because when I drink to excess. But I really like smoking weed, and if I have to get rid of this weed, which is why I came to see you, oh, I see how that's going to show up. Yeah, that's cool, and you're normal, you know. That's what we deal with, and that's what we're going to, you know, work towards. People with addictive disorders switch from one substance to the next. And then what happens after that? Maybe switches to a process addiction. Gambling, sex, workaholism, power, on and on, codependency. And you peel back that layer, then what are you stuck with? Affect dysregulation. I don't know how to cope. You peel back that layer. I don't know how to do relationships. You know, on and on. And we're going to go through that in just a bit. So the progression of chemical use, we'll say, the progression of addiction. Experimentation is a one-time event. Once someone experiences their first intoxication, the experiment is over. It's not a phase of life, rite of passage. Boys will be boys, girls will be girls. You know? Think about it. You guys, anyone holding a master's degree or better in here got trained in experimental design and research methodology. Correct? Right? Our clients don't have to do reliability testing, people. They don't have to do it over and over again to see if they get the same results. They know when they mix these chemicals with these chemicals, they either like it or they don't. They're like, wow, where has that been all of my life? I'm missing that experience in my life. I've never felt that feeling. Or, that was immobilizing to me and anxiety producing, and I'm never touching that again. Thank you very much, drive through. Or maybe it is, hey, I'll use it once in a while, or you know, that kind of thing. So they got the results of their research. Experimentation is a one-time event. The misusers are the young people who use for the purpose of intoxication. So the definition, let me just speak to adults real quick. Misuse for adults is, social use for adults is drinking alcohol without intoxication. Misuse is drinking alcohol for the purpose of intoxication. And then also certainly any other substance. There is no such thing as adolescent social use. I mean, if you take their definition, operational definition of social use, they would tell you it's when mom and dad are out of town, probation officer's on vacation, the police are far, far away, and all of our friends come over with all the substances and alcohol that they have, and we get hammered. And we talk about video games and the next party. They would say that that's probably their definition of social use. Their definition of social use is about intoxication. It is not toasting champagne on New Year's Eve and reflecting on 2013 so as to be a better student, family member, community person in 2014. It is, intoxication occurs, it triggers obsession to do more. Hey dude, can you get some more? Let's all party. Let me share this with you, this experience I had. That's what's happening for young people. Misuse for young people are the users that are using on infrequent social occasions. 420, April 20th. Everybody familiar with April 20th these days? Anybody not? 420 is the biggest marijuana smoking day of the year. So it's one of those dates you want to add to your knowledge base when working with young people or adults as well. So that's 420, and then, you know, graduation, spring break, dances, New Year's Eve, those kind of times, infrequent times, and then some young people might use for the purpose of intoxication on those times. Now, what I want to tell you is I've talked about experimentation and misuse based on frequency of use. And now what I want to say is frequency of use doesn't have much to do with this stuff really for me. It's about the pathological relationship to intoxication. That's the issue we're dealing with. So the experimenter and misuser uses, and consequences occur as a result of their use. Boyfriend expresses concern, girlfriend, school, somebody. What happens for them? What do they do with their use? They stop using. Experimenters and misusers, when a consequence occurs, they stop their use. They're done. Because their relationship to family is far more important than any substance. Their relationship to school is far more important. Sports, work, goals, hobbies, activities, healthy social friendships, and possibilities are more important than their relationship to intoxication. You with me? Yeah. So that kid who gets busted for the first time and quits, that's experimentation or misuse. That kid who gets busted for the first time, so you think, or first time, and then uses and uses and then uses again, even though they have 3 months of sobriety as a result of getting busted, is at least abuse, if not addiction. So substance abuse is a pathological relationship to intoxication. Now they've developed an attachment, a connection, a relationship to the intoxication. What are the hooks? Neurobiologically, it certainly feels good to be intoxicated. Emotionally, it takes the edge off. And if you're a teenager, the data are suggesting that the second half of adolescence, if you're normal, you should be anxious. Right? They have anxiety. And that's in the absence of any of the stuff we've talked about already today with early childhood traumas, relational disruption, any of that stuff, pre-existing diagnoses. Second half of adolescence, why is there anxiety versus the first? First half of adolescence, check it out. It's easy. It's all done for you. It's all hedonic. I get on my phone. I go to Starbucks. What else do they do? Play video games. Call people. Text. Go to Chipotle. Right? Life is that hard. There might be a little bit of the questions of who am I, how do I see myself, you know, all that Erickson stuff. Second half of adolescence. Now you're 15 to 19. How do I get a job? How do I get a car? How do I get a license? How do I ask her out? Will he ask me out? On and on. Can I graduate? Can I make it in school? Can I make it in this economy? Will I succeed in college? Wow, anxiety, and that's for a normal kid, right? I'm faced with mastery and adequacy. You know, when Erickson was talking about identity development, a lot of it had to do with mastery and adequacy. So those are the questions. Am I, can I, am I able to, do I have the capacity for, the competency and skill set for? That's now on their shoulders. So I played for the first half. Now I'm facing reality the second half, and that's, if your normal creates